Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Let's take a look at some new malicious compliance stories, where people conform to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. Thank you for subscribing to the channel and for hitting the like button. Today we have 5 great stories. If you enjoyed them, please subscribe and hit the like button. And now let's begin, shall we? The first story is called Exactly What He Wants. This happened when I, 20 at the time, female, was a junior in college. Here's some context. I'd taken a long weekend trip to Florida with a friend of mine to visit her brother and go to the Universal Studios Fright Night Halloween event, which was awesome by the way. We had an amazing trip and we were on the plane about to head home. This was only my second ever time with air travel. We didn't have much when I was growing up, so vacations were not a regular thing, and the ones we took were low-key. So there I was, just excited to be flying in my coach seat, waiting to take off, and we kept waiting. It became clear that there was a problem with the plane when the flight attendants started calling various passengers to exit to be placed on different flights so they'd make their necessary connections. Eventually, after around 40 minutes, it was just my friend and I plus around 6 other people. And then it was our turn to leave the plane. We were sort of near the end of the group, tramping back out into the waiting area. One couple, probably in their mid-50s, had stormed up ahead of us. By the time my friend and I emerged from the gate entrance, the rude husband was already berating the pair of attendants, who, to their credit, remained poised and calm. They tried to reassure him, but he was talking over them. "This is unacceptable. You better get me the same seats we had on that flight." He had the first row in coach, the one with no seats in front of it and therefore with extra legroom. By then the rest of us had gathered around. The attendants began addressing the whole group, offering reassurances, filling us in that there was a critical problem with the plane, which made me very glad for the change, despite the inconvenience. The rude husband was going off through all of this, and when the attendants left to make arrangements for us all, he and his wife sat there and he continued his commentary to his poor wife. "Unacceptable. How dare they? Better have same seats," and so on. Shortly after, the attendants returned, and the man practically rushed them. "I demand you make this right." The attendant smiled and said, "You guys are all set, sir," and she smiled at him specifically. "I'm very happy to tell you that we have a flight leaving shortly, and we were able to give you and your wife the exact same seats as you had booked on the previous flight." "I should hope so. That's the least you can do." And he huffily returns to his seat. Meanwhile, the rest of us are just waiting. The attendant then turns to us, and she says, "And I'm happy to let everyone else know that you'll all be flying first class with us today." The rude husband was furious and immediately jumped up to demand why they weren't flying first class while the rest of us just sat there in a state of stunned glee. The attendant just informed the man that she'd given him his request and didn't stick around for more abuse. The wait wasn't long, and soon my friend and I were boarded into the unicorn fabled place that is first class. As a poor air travel newbie, it was like some fantasy land. Huge seats, real hot wash clothes, and though we were underage and couldn't partake in the free cocktails, we did get to choose from a basket of distinctive Pepperidge Farm cookies. And the food. We got a whole meal which was truly delicious, with real crystal salt and pepper shakers at each place setting, and actual metal cutlery. Meanwhile, the rude husband is angry. My friend and I were in the last row of first class, which only had around 8 seats. So we could hear him heaping abuse on the coach attendants, going off on how those kids don't deserve first class, and how they should have gotten them. They are older, they should be respected, not some kids. Someone else who wasn't first, not from our original plane, caught on and was quite tickled with the man's ire. Then the best part of all happened. The flight attendant in our section overheard the rude husband's tirade, with language specifically directed at my friend and me. Who do these kids think they are? As unworthy of the honor he should have been granted. The attendant shook his head and addressed me and my friend. "I'm sorry about that. Let me take care of this for you." And he closed the curtain to the coach cabin. The rude husband realized what was happening, which makes it even better. I got one last look at his red, irate face before he was gone forever. It was glorious. The next story is called Make Sure They Listen. I have a coworker who is one step higher than me in hierarchy at work. Nobody likes her. She's rude, mean, easy to snap at you and generally kinda dumb, to be honest. She likes to blame me all the time for everything that's done wrong in my department, and she comes after me for it. One time she told me, "If they are not listening to you when you tell them to do something, then next time you need to make sure they do." I don't think you are telling them anything. This coworker has a tendency to leave expired food or various things in one of the areas I work in, and I asked her not to. She shrugs it off and tells me to put it away since it's my area. This happened twice before she gave me that little bit of advice. So the next time it happened, I went to our boss, told him what's what, and then I went to her and made sure she was listening and asked if she knew about the food. And she said condescendingly, "Yeah, I left it back there." I cut her off and said, "Well, you need to stop. That area is not for expired food or snacks or toys. I thought that's what the back room was for, but I guess not. Maybe that's on me. If you leave something in my area that doesn't belong there, then you need to take it out." Before she could snap at me, she saw my boss right there and he asked if she was listening. She told me to make sure I was being listened to. Let's see if it happens again. The third story is called Those Are the Rules. A couple of years ago, I got a book for Christmas that I already owned. So I went to the bookstore to trade it for something else. I found a book I liked in the same price range, so I went to the counter to inquire about trading in. The clerk said, "Without a receipt, we will value your book at the lowest price we've sold it for since launch. But surely the value of the book right now is the going rate right now." Nope, those are the rules without a receipt. Okay, I guess. Here's a voucher for the value of your book. Annoyed, I go back among the shelves to see what I can get for this new lower price and notice the book I wanted was on a discount for members of the Customers Members Club. I grab a pamphlet about this club. It's a deal where they got to send you ads, mail and SMS, and you get discounts. Rules mentioned that I can cancel at any time. I fill out the form on the pamphlet. Back at the counter, I said, "I'd like to become a member, please." "Great. And I want this book." "Great. Just fill out a form." The transaction takes place without any problem. At the end, the clerk asks, "Anything else?" "Yes, I'd like to terminate my membership, please." I grab the form still on the counter. "You can't do. Those are the rules." The next story is called Can't Share Anymore. When my significant other and I moved into our house some 20 years ago, our neighbors on one side were an elderly husband and wife who we got along with very well. Our two houses shared a driveway that went from the street to the alley behind the houses, and we each had our own parking area in the back. The driveway was set up so that about 2 feet of it was on our property with the rest on the neighbor's property. The driveway was about against the neighbor's house and about 8 feet from ours. We all made it a point to not park in the driveway so that we don't block each other's ways and had no problems for 15 years. Sadly, the sweet neighbors died about 5 years ago. Their house was bought by Mike, a man who regularly bought old houses to rent or resell and who clearly didn't care about anything except profit. The first time that we ever met Mike was right after a car had hit our house. The driver had a stroke and lost control of his car while driving down our street. The front of his car was actually inside of our house. So here we are, freaking out because our car is literally sticking out of our house, surrounded by a crowd of onlookers, police and emergency workers, when Mike saunters over. He introduces himself by saying that the whole driveway plus part of our garage are on his property. We tell him that he's wrong, but that this is not the time to discuss it and we'll get back to him later. We do some investigating and discover that the property line is exactly where we knew it to be and that the map Mike was using had the property line overlay off by about 2 feet. Nevertheless, Mike continues to harass us. He tells us that we can't use the driveway any longer because he is going to rent the place out and it would be a liability to have us driving on his property. Fine. We'd often talked about putting in our own driveway, so now was as good as a time as any. Mike was quite pleased when we told him that. At least he was until he learned that the new driveway was going in right next to his driveway along our property line. He tried to talk us into putting the driveway on the other side of our house, obviously so that he would still have use of the full existing driveway, which sat 2 feet on our property. The look on Mike's face when he saw where the surveyor drew our property line was absolutely priceless. The line left just barely enough room for a car to fit on his side, and he couldn't widen his driveway because it already ran next to his house. We used a chunk of our lawn on that side to install a nice wide driveway with Riverstone gravel so that it would be obvious where our driveway ended and Mike's very narrow blacktop driveway began. Mike never spoke to us again. The last story is called Let It Be. Dad has this habit where every time I start doing something around the house, he will tell me to leave it and let someone else do it. He waits hours for me to come home, and as soon as I'm home, he'll have this list of things that needs to be fixed. As soon as I start looking at them, he'll tell me to leave it. This happened today. I work night shifts, so I wake up late. His TV is not working. He's been waiting for me since in the morning. The remote probably needs a battery change or there's a loose connection. As soon as I go to have a look, he says let it be, I'm going for my afternoon nap. So I let it be. The look on his face was priceless when I walked away. And now it's your time to shine. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories? I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.